Chapter 7. The next important step in my education was learning to read. As soon as I could spell a few words, my teacher gave me slips of cardboard on which were printed words in raised letters. I quickly learned that each printed word stood for an object, an ad, or a quality. I had a frame in which I could arrange the words in little sentences, but before I ever put sentences in the frame, I used to make them in objects. I found the slits of paper which represent, for example, doll, is, on, bed, and place each name on its object. Then I put my doll on the bed with the word is on bed arranged beside the doll, thus making a sentence of the words and at the same time carrying out the idea of the sentence with the things themselves. One day, Miss Sullivan tells me I painted the word gear on my pinafore and I stood in the wardrobe. On the shelf I arranged the words is in wardrobe. Nothing delighted me so much as the game. My teacher and I played it 4 hours at a time. Often everything in the room was arranged in object sentence. From the print slip it was bought instead to the print book. I took my reader for beginners and hunted for the words I knew. When I found them, my joy was like that on a game of hide and seek. Thus I began to read. Of the time when I began to read connect stories, I shall speak later. For a long time I had no regular lesson. Even when I studied most earnestly, it seemed more like play than word. Everything Miss Sullivan thought me, she illustrated by a beautiful story or a poem. Whenever anything delighted or interested me, she talked it over with me just as if she were a little girl herself. What many children think of with read as painful plodding through grammar, hard songs, and harder definitions is today one of my most one of my most precious memories. I cannot explain the peculiar sympathy Miss Sullivan had with my pleasures and desires. Perhaps it was the result of long association with the blind. Add to this, she had a wonderful faculty for description. She went quickly over uninteresting details and never nagged me with questions to see if I remembered the day before yesterday's lesson. She introduced dry technicalities of science little by little, making every subject so real that I could not help me remembering what she thought. We read and study out of doors, preferring the sunlight woods to the house. All my early lessons had in them the breath of the woods, the fine, resinous odor of pine needles, blended with the perfume of wild grapes, seated in the gracious shade of wild tulip tree. I learned to think that everything has a lesson and a suggestion. The loving of things taught me all their use. Indeed, everything that called home or buzz or sing or bloom had a part in my education noisy. Truth, fruits, carrots, and crickets held in my hand, until forgetting their embarrassment, their thriller they really not. Little downy chickens and wildflowers, the dogwood blossom, without violets and budding fruit trees. I felt the bursting cotton balls and fingered their thought fiber and fuzzy seeds. I felt the loud showing of the wind through the corn stalls, the silky rustling of the long leaves, and the indignant sort of my pony as we caught him in the pasture and popped the bit in his mouth. Ah, man, how well I remember the spicy, clovery smell of his breath. Sometimes I rose at dawn and stole into the garden while the heavy dew lay on the grass and flowers. Fear now that, Fear now what joy it is to feel the rose pressing softly into the hand, or the beautiful motion on the lilies as they sough in the morning breeze. Sometimes I caught an insect in the flower I was plucking, and I felt the faint noise of a pair of wings rubbed together in a thunder terror as the little creature became aware of a pursuit from without. Another favorite haunt of mine was the orchard, where the fruit ripened early in July. The large, downy peach will reach themselves into my hand as joyous breezes flew about the trees. The apples tumbled at my feet. Oh, the delight with which I gathered up the fruit in my pinafore, pressing my face against the smooth sheets of the apples, still warm from the sun, and I skipped back to the house. Our favorite wall was to Killer Landing, an old trumpet-down lumber wharf on the Tennessee River, used during the Civil War to land soldiers. There we spent many happy hours and played at learning geography. I built dams of pebbles, made islands and lakes, and do riverbeds, all for fun, and never dreaming that I was learning a lesson. I listened with increasing wonder to Miss Sullivan's description of the great round world with its burning mountains, buried cities, moving rivers of ice, and many other things as strange. She made raised maps in clay so that I could feel the mountain ridges and valleys and follow with my fingers the diffuse course of rivers. I like this too, but the division of the earth into suns and poles confuse and tease my mind. The straight string and the orange stick representing the pole seem so real that even to this day the mere mentions of the temperate sun suggests a series of twined circles, and I believe that if anyone should sit about it, he could convince me that white birds actually claim the North Pole. Arithmetic seems to have been the only study I did not like. From the first, I was not interested in the science of numbers. Miss Sullivan tried to teach me to come by stringing beads in groups, and by arranging kindergarten straws I learned to add and subtract. I never had patience to arrange more than 5 or 6 groups at a time. When I had accomplished this, my conscience was at rest for the day, and I went out quickly to find my playmates. In the same leisurely manner I studied zoology and botany. Once a gentleman, whose name I had forgotten, sent me a collection of fossils, tiny mollusks shell beautifully marked, and bits of sandstone with the print of birds, clouds, and a lovely fairy bas relief. These were the keys which unlocked the treasure of the antediluvian world for me. With trembling fingers, I listened to Miss Sullivan's description of the terrible beasts, with uncommon, unpronounceable names, which once went tramping through the primeval forest, tearing down the branches of giant trees for food, and died in the small swamps of an unknown age. For a long time, these strange creatures haunted my dreams, and this gloomy period formed a somber background to the Jesus now, filled with the sunshines and roses and echoing with the gentle beat of my pony's hoof. Another time a beautiful shell was given me, and with child surprise and delight I learned how a tiny mollusk had built and lustrous called for his dwelling place, and how on still nights, when there is no breeze steering the waves, the Nautilus sails on the blue waters of the Indian Ocean in his ship of pearl. After I had learned a great many interesting things about the life and habits of the children of the sea, how into midst of dashing waves the little polyps build the beautiful coral isles of the Pacific, and the foraminifera have made the shell hills of many a land. My teacher read me the chambered Nautilus and showed me that shell building process of the mollusk is symbolical of the development of the mind. Just as the wonder working metal of the Nautilus changed the material it absorbs from the water and makes it a part of itself, so the bits of knowledge one gathers undergo a similar change and become parts of thought. Again, it was the growth of a plant that furnished the text for a lesson. We bought a lily and set in a sunny window. Very soon the green point buds showed signs of opening. The slender finger-like leaves of the outside opened slowly, reluctant, I thought, to reveal the lovely lines they hid. Once having made a start, however, the opening process went on rapidly, but in order and systematically. There was always one bud larger and more beautiful than the rest, which pushed her outer, covering back with more pomp, as if the beauty in soft, skilled robes knew that she was the lily queen by right divine, while her more timid sister doffed their green hoods sheerly, until the whole plant was a nodding bowl of loveliness and fragrance. Once there were 11 tadpoles in a glass globe set in a window full of plants. I remember the eagerness with which I made discoveries about them. It was great fun to plunge my hand into the bowl and feel the tadpoles freeze about, and to let them slip and slide between my fingers. One day, a more ambitious Philip leaped beyond the edge of the bowl and fell on the floor, where I found him to all appearance more dead than alive. The only sign of life was a slight wriggling of his tail, but no sooner had he returned to his element than he darted to the bottom, swimming round and round in Joseph's activity. He had made this leap, he had seen the great world, and was content to stay in his pretty glass house under the big fuchsia tree until he attained the dignity of the froghood. Then he went to live in the leafy pool at the end of the garden, where he made the summer nights musical with his quiet love song. Thus I learned from life itself. At the beginning, I was only a little mass of possibilities. It was my teacher who unfolded and developed them. When she came, everything about me breathed of love and joy and was full of meaning. She has never since let pass an opportunity to point out the beauty that is in everything, nor has she ceased trying in thought and action, an example to make my life sweet and useful. It was my teacher genius, her quick sympathy, her loving thought with me, the first years of my education so beautiful. It was because she said the right moment to impart knowledge that made it so pleasant and acceptable to me. She realized that a child's mind is like a shallow brook which ripples and dances merrily over the sunny course of its education and reflects here a flower, there a bush, yonder a fleecy cloud, and she attempts to guide my mind on its way, knowing that like a brook it shall be fed by mountain, stream, and hiding springs until it broadened out into a deep river, capable of reflecting its placid surface, billowy hills, the luminous shadows of trees, and the blue heavens, as well as the sweet face of a little flower. Any teacher can take a child to the classroom, but not every teacher can make him learn. He will not work joyously unless he feels that liberty is his. Wherever he is busy or at rest, he must feel the flush of victory and the heart sinking of disappointment before he takes with a will the tales detested full to him and resolves to dance his way bravely through a dull routine of the textbooks. My teacher is so near to me that I scarcely think of myself apart from her. How much of me delight in all beautiful things is made, and how much is due to her influence, I can never tell. I feel that her being is inseparable from my own, and that the footsteps of my life are in hers. All the best of my belongs to her. There is not a talent or an aspiration or a joy in me that has not been awakened by her loving touch. Chapter 8. The first Christmas after Mr. Sullivan came to Tuscumbia was a great event. Everyone in the family prepared surprise for me, but what pleased me most, Miss Sullivan and I prepared surprise for everybody else. The mystery that surrounded the gift was my greatest delight and amusement. My friends did all they could to excite my curiosity by hints and half-spelled sentences which they pretended to read off in the nick of time. Miss Sullivan and I kept up a game of guessing which taught me more about the use of language than any set lessons could have done. Every evening, seated round a glowing wood fire, we played our guessing game, which grew more and more exciting and Christmas approached. On Christmas Eve, the Tuscumbia school children had their tree, to which they invited me. In the center of the schoolroom stood a beautiful tree, ablaze and shimmering in the soft light, its branches loaded with strange, wonderful fruit. It was a moment of supreme happiness. I danced and capered round the tree in an ecstasy. When that there were was I learned that there was a gift for each child. I was delighted, and the kind people who had prepared the tree permitted me to hand the present to the children. In the pleasure of doing this, I did not stop to look at my own gift, but when I was ready for then my impatience for the real Christmas to begin almost got beyond control. I knew the gifts I already had were not those of which friends had thrown out such tantalizing hints, and my teacher said the present I was to have would be even nicer than this. I was persuaded, however, to content myself with the gift from the tree and leave the others until morning. That night, after I had hung my stocking, I lay awake a long time, pretending to be asleep and keeping alert to see what Santa Claus will do when he came. At last I fell asleep with a new doll and a white bird in my arms. Next morning it was I who welcomed the whole family with the first Merry Christmas. I found surprise not into the stocking only, but on the table, on all the chairs, at the door, on the very window sill. Indeed, I could hardly walk without stumbling on a bit of Christmas grape up in tissue paper. But when my teacher presented me with a canary, my cup of happiness overflowed. Little Tin was so tame that he would hop on my finger and eat candy cherries out my hand. Miss Sullivan taught me to take all the care of my new pet. Every morning after breakfast, I prepared his bath, made his cage clean and sweet, filled his cups with fresh seed and water from the wheelhouse, and hung and sprayed our chickweed in his swing. One morning I left the cage on the on the window seat while I went to fetch water for his bath. When I returned, I felt a big cat brush past me as I opened the door. At first, I did not realize what had happened, but when I put my hand in the cage and Tim's pretty wings did not meet my touch, or his small point claws take hold of my finger, I knew that I should never see my sweet little singer again.